Sales National Football Show. Do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. You know, I was thinking about who we were going to get on today, and I said, what do I have coming up in the next couple days that's Italian related? Then I remembered John Calipari versus Rick Pitino, baby, on Saturday. How you doing? If that's not an old school Big East matchup, or how about in the day when Cheney went after Calipari and told him he was going to murder him? That's totally one of the best press conferences I've ever seen in my life. I'm watching that, and when Cheney when he's at Temple and he's going, I'm going to kill you. I was like, this is what I talk about old school back in the day. East Coast hoop. That's what I like. And now you got Rick Pitino in St. John's on Saturday. I did watch that Kansas-Arkansas matchup. I can't believe that Kansas is where they are with Bill Self right now. But the NCAA tournament, man, I say it's the second best event in all of American sports next to the NFL playoffs. Let's bring our paisan in and our friend Marc Farzetta. Farzy, what do you got? We got a big get together here on Saturday.
Yeah,
Pitino and Calipari.
Pitino, as far as I'm concerned, my friend, he's on paisan probation. All right, yeah, he's on probation. All right, here's the St. Patrick's Day. He's talking about chugging Jameson. You don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day. All right, that's for the Irish people. So the Irish people can feel as good as the Italians feel every day. They get one day to feel great, and then the Italians have the other 360. Rick Pitino was talking about chugging Jameson. Paisan probation, as far as I'm concerned. Now, Calipari, we're cool. We're cool. No problem there. The last time, I think they faced each other since then, but I remember the first time they faced each other, it was, I think, at the Marcus Camby UMass team.
Okay.
I think that's, a million years ago. And it was like such a thing.
Was he at Providence? Was he at Providence then?
He was with
Kentucky?
He was Calipari. I forget where Pitino was. He might have been Kentucky. But I know Calipari was with UMass and Marcus Camby and that squad. And it was like such a thing that two Italian-American coaches were facing each other. Yeah. And I remember they literally were comparing each other, and they were like, there's really no comparison other than this. And then I think Calipari said, my nose is bigger, but that's about it.
Man, you like the NCAA tournament, man? I got Houston winning it all.
I get into it a little bit. I'm not crazy about it like some other people. My bracket looks like the meme that's going around right now, which is just, can you believe the Eagles were up 34-0 over the Kansas City Chiefs? That's I was at a great event yesterday, though. I got to say, for Phil Abundance, give them a shout out. Their kickoff party for the NCAA tournament, as well as their auctions and all that stuff to raise money. It was phenomenal. The vibe was great, and people are excited, despite the fact that no Big Five team is in the NCAA tournament, which is, of course, heartbreaking to me. But other than that, I know it's a party for the rest of the country.
All right. Well, the party down in Philly a couple months ago was obviously the victory parade. And all of a sudden now I look at that Eagle defense, and I don't see that same group out there. But listen to this here, Farzy. So here's the hit list here, but I'm going to go somewhere with this. And because I heard Les Bowen on with the guys this morning on Birds 365, and so here you go. Maddox signed today with the Lions. So your little light there in the safety position. Not that that's a gigantic loss, but Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Oren Burks, CJ, Slay, Isaiah Rogers, even Kenny Gainwell. You're talking Fred Johnson was your swing tackle who had a really good game against Trey Hendrickson. He shut his ass down. You had Becton gone and Small Hands Pickett. The whole group is what I'm talking about here. You know, you may take a step back this year roster-wise, but compared to the rest of the NFC East, I mean, look at the Giants, Farzy. The Giants don't even have a quarterback on March 21st. They don't even know what – I mean, you're talking Wilson or Joe Flacco. You're not going anywhere with that. I mean, the Cowboys are still going around that toilet bowl, not being able to flush it. Washington's the only other team. So this may be a 12-win team. But isn't that good enough still? Think about it here, dude. Look at this. Next year, you have all those picks in the next 2 years. You have 20 selections. You're positioning yourself money-wise. If you don't catch the Eagles now, game over. I mean, they're positioning themselves while rebooting, and they're still a 12-win team. You think Howie's played the numbers and went, nobody in the NFC's catching us. Let's take a step back so we can be competitive the next 6 years. Our younger guys are hitting. We got 20 draft picks coming up. I can't believe teams like the Giants, the Cowboys, even the Rams, now they got Devontae Adams, haven't made bigger swings now because if you don't catch this team, they're positioned for great success over the next 10 years.
I don't think I've ever said anything that sounds more homerish, but is also exactly how I feel, and I do believe it's accurate. And that is the rest of the league had a lot of catching up to do. And I think you and I have talked about that a while ago. And when you blow out another team in the Super Bowl and that team is trying to go for a three-peat or is going for a three-peat, and you blow them out, it's pretty good indication. That's a pretty good measuring stick that the rest of the NFL had some catching up to do. Now that doesn't mean, in essence, tank for an offseason. But I think Howie is trying to call on the same type of philosophy that he applied last year, but without Bryce Huff. The most impactful offseason acquisition of last year was Zach Bond. Now Zach Bond is the highest paid linebacker in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles. Bryce Huff was a complete bust. Somebody in my chat earlier today was calling him Bryce Puff, as a matter of fact. And it obviously didn't work out. And I think Howie is looking at Vic Fangio and saying, Vic, whatever magic you had with Zach Bond, can you sprinkle a little bit of that on Azeez Ojulari? Can you sprinkle a little bit of that on Josh Uche? Can you sprinkle a little bit of that on Adoree Jackson, who's another veteran cornerback that the Eagles are hoping can at least maintain the level of play that we saw from Darius Slay last year, but stay on the field more often, of course. So I think they're banking on the idea that Vic Fangio knows how to get the best out of his players and hoping that they have that buy low, accomplish high as far as talent is concerned with grooming a player and bringing them along to get the best out of them that maybe some other defenses haven't been able to do. I think that you look at Vic Fangio and you can have confidence that, all right, I know what got Josh Uche 11.5 sacks under Bill Belichick with the Patriots 3-4 years ago. I can get that same kind of production from him here in Philly. I know that if I just get Ojulari healthy for 16 games, you're talking about a guy that could get you 10, 12, 13 sacks in the season. It's just a matter of keeping him healthy, and you hope that you have more luck than you did, first off, on this grass field, more so than you did MetLife Stadium with the Giants, and your training staff, you trust in them to make sure that you're bringing them along cautiously, but still allowing them the ceiling to get better and better and better. And I love the versatility that you talk about with Azeez Ojulari when he was talking to the media earlier in the week. He talked about how you need me to rush the passer, I can rush the passer. You need me to drop back, I can drop back. And it got me thinking, is this the guy that the Eagles are really looking forward to and looking at to not just replace Josh Sweat, but also replace anything that you were expecting from Bryce Huff? Because it's going to take a handful of guys, and that's why the Eagles have gone after a handful of guys in the offseason to replace Josh Sweat, to replace Bryce Huff, and also to replace Brandon Graham, with keeping in consideration that Nolan Smith is still here in Philly. So I look at the offseason, and Howie still has yet to do that Howie wow me type of move where everyone's like, how did Howie pull it off? How do you get this guy? And the only one that really jumps to mind, and it hasn't happened yet, but the only thing that makes me think Howie is gearing up for something, because when you don't sign Oren Burks to a 2-year, $4 million deal, it makes me think, okay, you're really pinching pennies in certain aspects here. So it makes me think that maybe the move is still at the safety position. Maybe
Justin Simmons.
Thank you. Maybe Justin Simmons, who apparently can't say enough good things about his time with Vic Fangio, both at the Pro Bowl last year and more recently in Atlanta, talking about how, Vic's great, would love to play with Vic again and all that stuff. It makes me think that Howie is pinching pennies so much in this offseason that it's not just to give Lane Johnson an extension. It's not just to sign an extension with Saquon Barkley and ultimately save money on the cap this year in doing the deal. But he's pinching pennies so much, it makes me believe it's not just preparation for the draft. It's something that is lying in wait, waiting for the right shoe to drop. and he's going to make a bigger deal that is going to be that Howie wow me type of move.
You know, I heard Zach Bond say something at his press conference this week that made me think that Vic Fangio, with the equity that he built last year by having that number one defense, and again, as great as it played in the Super Bowl, I don't even remember when Kansas City crossed the 50-yard line. I think it was in the second half somewhere. They just were dominant. I heard him say something that during the negotiations that he was talking to Vic, Nick, Howie, and the agent, and everybody was communicating the entire time, Mark, and I was like really impressed with that they were really talking and that Vic was part of the process. So that made me think about the guys that they've signed. Don't all these edge rushers look alike? I mean, they're the same 6'2", 236, guys who can drop in coverage, guys who can play in space. He loves that because the game's in space now. He talks about it all the time. Do you think with what he did a year ago that the equity that he built in that building, it's at the Jeff Stoutland level now where, you know, if he wants something, because he was involved in the process of bringing Vic back, which leads me to believe he must have been in the process of the exiting of CJ, and also that we could maybe move on from Milton and go to Moro Jomo. Hey, maybe we'll find a guy in the draft. So do you believe that he built that kind of equity up this past year and in the Super Bowl?
Well, I'll even go back and quote you, my friend, at the last offseason that we went through, which was Hassan Reddick's gone. That's interesting. Was that a Vic Fangio decision or was that a Howie Roseman decision? And that ran through my head when the Eagles brought in Ojulari. There's moves that aren't being made. I don't think there's moves being made on this defense that Vic Fangio is not signing off on, to answer your question point blank. And I think what goes into that is the great story that we've heard a million times to this point, which is Howie Roseman brings the tape to Vic Fangio and says, hey, I'm looking at this Zach Bond guy with the Saints. I think he could be a pretty solid outside linebacker, edge rusher, and special teamer. What do you think? And he goes, oh, I think we have our inside linebacker. And then the guy goes on to have an all-pro season. The guy goes on to be a defensive player of the year candidate. So I think Howie Roseman might have met somebody finally where he goes, what do you think? And really values their opinion, maybe even above his own when it comes to defensive players. So I don't think for a second that Vic Fangio is looking at any of the guys that Howie Roseman is bringing in and not signing off on them. And then we even go back to last year again. I don't think Bryce Huff got exactly a ringing endorsement from Vic Fangio. And the reason being is I don't think Vic Fangio is going to want that guy to come in here and not realize the true potential that he could have and then speak so brutally honest with him about him the first time he's asked about Bryce Huff's progression in his new surroundings and with his new defensive coordinator. And you have Vic Fangio talking about Bryce Huff like he's an unsigned rookie free agent, not a $50 million offseason acquisition. So I'd venture to guess last year, Vic might have said, yeah, let's see what we could get out of him and how he signs the deal. And then he ends up being a complete bust. I think a lot of these are going to come off with Vic Fangio championing the cause for a lot of these players coming in, if not all of them, especially on the defensive side of the football. And yes, to your question, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is not getting dealt unless there's a clear path to a better option at the safety position by Vic Fangio's standard.
I'm going to now make my case and do a complete 360 on Jordan Davis, on him getting a 3-year contract. Here, listen here now.
I am all ears. This is the most optimistic I've ever heard you, friend.
Yeah. I talked to Vince Wilfork.
Oh, okay.
And I talked to Clint Hurt, both Hurricane guys. And I said, what was your role when you were in New England? He goes, I struggled with it my first couple of years because I didn't embrace it. I didn't embrace the fact I thought I was a letdown to them, that I wasn't a third down pass rusher. And you know what Belichick told me? Belichick and all the coaches and Brian Flores said, embrace the role you have of being the number one thing that we're asking you to do is to control the run game. If you control the run game, we don't have a defense unless we control the run game. If we don't have a top flight nose, that defense implodes. The linebackers don't play well, and all you do is run the ball on them. I said this last year, and I go, it's funny. I said the less that Jordan Davis plays, the better the defense will be. And the reason that is this. If he plays less, that means they're third and long more. Does it not?
Yeah,
if
you're right. You're right.
If you're giving up the yardage on the ground, he's playing more, and you're 3rd and 2. You're constantly on the field because you're getting mowed over in the run game. Without a great nose, Vic Fangio's defense can't run, because if you're giving up the run, you have no defense in a 34 front. So to me, he's one of the most instrumental things. I mean, Zach Bond played well. Why? They were number 8 against the run. I mean, their secondary was good, because how many times did we see, Farzy, last year that the Eagle defense, look at the Super Bowl, how many times were Kansas City in 3rd and long, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 13? I mean, without his play, hey, he may play 25 plays a game, but those 25 plays are winning 1st and 2nd down, are they not? And then you bring in your talented pass rush. Do you know why they got away not having an elite edge like Hassan Reddick with 15 sacks? Because they stopped the run, and they could win with guys out there with 6, 7, 8 sacks. They rushed 4 guys in the Super Bowl. They didn't blitz one time because they could stop the run. That's my case for him. Now, is he $18 million? I doubt it. But the option of picking him up at $12 million to keep the integrity of the scheme, I don't know, dude. I mean, who are you putting? I tell you this, if you get rid of him, I don't think there's less double teams on Jalen Carter with the guys that you have in the building now, do you?
No, absolutely not. With Milt Williams not being here, of course not. No. But that's really interesting, because the knock on Jordan Davis is he isn't in shape enough to be able to play more. But in his scenario, if he does his job, in this scenario, if he does his job on the first 2 downs, then he's not going to play 3rd down.
Let me tell you what Clint told me that they did this year compared to a year ago. And you would agree, I think, that by the New York 2nd game to the playoffs, he picked his game up. And you know what they were doing? Vic wasn't happy with the conditioning that the whole team was doing. So you know what the D-line was doing and the defense? They were doing extra gassers. And did that not pay off the entire time when it came to those guys in shape compared to 23? Vic had – Clint Hurt told me that right after everyone would go in, Vic goes, we're not done. And we're going to run gassers. They ran gassers throughout the entire year, extra running, so that they were in shape, those 2 guys in the middle. And it paid off to the number 1 defense.
I'm shocked that the CBA would even allow gassers at the NFL level. That's the first thing.
Well, you can run those on your own.
Okay. So it's voluntary gassers?
Voluntary, mandatory.
Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, I understand. Yeah, no, I get it. All right. I'll bite. If that's what you're hearing out of the locker, if that's what you're hearing from a guy like Clint Hurt specifically, if that's what you're hearing from such a great player as Vince Wilfork, for instance, then great. But Clint Hurt obviously is carrying more weight in the situation here because he's the guy coaching these guys up. And one of the things I loved, and the mic'd up NFL films and the mic'd up Eagles release and all that stuff, it showed you like these guys flocking to Clint Hurt, a lot of them, and how much these guys were on the same page. So the respect is there. And that's one of the amazing things about this past season is that just everyone had such a great respect for each other where they could all have those tough conversations. And you heard this from A.J. Brown. You heard this from Devontae Smith on the offensive side of things. We didn't hear much about the defensive side of things until after the season, specifically Jalix Hunt talking about Vic Fangio saying in the Super Bowl, these touchdowns late are unacceptable. You know what I mean? So it's good to hear that throughout the season that they were that tough on a guy like Jordan Davis, who obviously needed to get in a little bit better shape. And I thought started the season well.
Clint's the guy. Clint's the guy.
Oh, okay. Well, in the beginning of the year, I thought Jordan Davis started out well. I thought he ended well. It was that middle of the season that I thought he was dragging behind. But if you're talking about a 45% snap percentage 2 years ago dropping down to a 37% snap percentage this past season.
And they were better.
That would lend itself, though, for the camp of talking about he's got to be in better shape. That would lend itself, say, look, he's doing less. He's supposed to be doing more. But in this philosophy, you're telling me that they only want him to do his job damn near perfect.
Embrace
for
the
2
role.
snaps. Embrace your role for 2 snaps. And then hopefully they can get off the football field.
You want to hear what Bobby King told Devin White after the last exhibition game? Now, this is the first time I'm saying this. He went to Vic and said, that guy's not good enough. And then Vic goes, well, who are you putting in there? And Vic goes, I don't know. That's how they moved in Zach Bond. They didn't know.
Okay.
They didn't know Zach Bond was going to be that guy. They just said, well, we're going to put a body in there. That guy landed on $17 million, dude. With that freaking move, they landed on 17. I mean, you couldn't throw up angel dust and go, oh my God, I got a dream here for something to happen here. And all of a sudden, there she is. The pumpkin turns into like the carriage. And you're like, holy shit, this is unbelievable. I mean, Bobby King goes, this guy's not good enough. He's just not good enough.
So Dean was always in.
What?
Nakobe Dean was always in. He was always the starter.
He was. I didn't think that. I thought Nakobe Dean was the other guy, but it wasn't.
Me too. That's interesting.
They always had Dean in.
Huh?
He was always. I thought he was the guy they questioned. They didn't. They questioned the odd linebacker because remember this. I was like, Devin White started almost every exhibition game, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe he did.
He got almost all the reps. And all of a sudden, that guy doesn't make it to Brazil. I mean, he didn't even make the trip to Brazil.
No, and then even with the Texans, I think he only played about 30% of the defensive snaps on average. That would lend itself again to the guy can't play.
They're brutally honest with that defensive group, dude.
And it's refreshing. Like I don't understand why more coaches aren't like Vic Fangio. For instance, the extreme, as we know in Philadelphia, is Andy Reid. Like he's not going to tell you anything negative about any player. The only time he did is when he acknowledged David Akers missing kicks, and that's like, well, you can't lie about him missing kicks. That's what happened. And then listening to Vic Fangio is the other perfect example of the other direction, where he's one of my favorite things that he said is they talked about. It's like, what was it? Was it Devin White? It might have been Devin White. Talking about the starters. Is Devin White going to be a starting linebacker for you? And he's like, well, I don't know. The guys will tell me. And it was like, the guys will tell you. He's like, well, I don't pick the starters. I acknowledge the starters. He's like, the players will allow the cream to rise to the top. And then all I do is acknowledge it. That the other people, they might let agenda get in the way. This guy's a first round pick. This guy's a $50 million offseason acquisition. This is that guy's got to play over this guy. It's like, no. The best players play. The players will let you know throughout training camp, throughout OTAs, throughout the preseason, who the best players are. It's just up to me if I'm Vic Fangio to go, I acknowledge this guy was the best player, therefore he's the number one guy. Like that is that not the mentality of every coach, of every coordinator, every general manager, every owner, even that wants to meddle in affairs? That's the way it should be. And Vic Fangio is the guy that I referenced how we talked about Bryce Huff, like he was an undrafted free agent rookie, right? Well, he talked about Zach Bond like he was really growing. There's no better example, in all true to form. There is no better example than how he talked about Nolan Smith this season. Nolan Smith got a sack in the preseason game against the Ravens. And people were, not celebrating it, but of course it was a point of positivity.
Yeah, no,
talking about Nolan Smith.
It started showing he could play.
Right. But after that play, after the sack, Vic Fangio wasn't doing cartwheels. No. Okay. He wasn't breaking out the red wine saying, oh, let's celebrate. No. He was saying, okay, yeah, he wasn't blocked. So I guess he showed he was fast and made the play. Like he acted like it wasn't a big deal. And true, a sack in the preseason is not cause for a parade, but he didn't give it the flowers that other people were giving it.
How many times did he say this about Nolan Smith? Yeah, for an undersized guy, he really plays. Yeah. I'm like, so are you calling him a shrimp? I mean, he's like, hey, for an undersized guy, he plays with great tenacity, but he's getting better. How many times did you hear that? He goes, no, he's improving. It wasn't like this, glazing over somebody. I don't think he glazed over anybody because when they asked him about Bond's play, he goes, "Oh, I was stunned. I don't know what we had." I mean, not even Jalen Carter he glazes over.
Yeah, it was interesting with the Nolan Smith situation because it was very similar to, and obviously the talent level at the start of the season is far different, or not even the start of the season, but because I'm including Cooper DeJean in this, I'm going to say when they started playing. Like, it was undeniable with Quenyon Mitchell. When Cooper DeJean started playing, it was undeniable what a step forward it was. But those guys started at a high level and ended at a higher level. And to Vic Fangio's words, he said it's because they always stayed hungry and never impressed with themselves. Like, they just wanted more. Nolan Smith never was impressed with himself. He didn't give himself flowers after the preseason sack. After week 4, he became one of the best edge rushers in the NFL in terms of percentage win rate. After Brandon Graham went down in Los Angeles against the Rams, he took his play to another high level. And, I mean, I think anybody looked at that situation and said, the guy that has to step up is not Josh Sweat. The guy that has to step up, like, if Josh Sweat just maintains, because you know what Josh Sweat was, you weren't going to get any more from Josh Sweat. The guy that has to step up is Nolan Smith. And it's not just because he smiles like Brandon Graham. It's because he's more of an undersized guy, still with that positive attitude, but he has all the athleticism in the world, but you had to see it. You saw a step forward after the bye week, and you saw a giant leap forward after Brandon Graham went down in Los Angeles. All those guys, Quenyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Nolan Smith were 3 of the younger guys on this defense, 2 rookies and a sophomore, essentially, that were just never impressed with themselves and kept on pushing. And Vic Fangio, as they earned more, he gave them more and kept challenging them. And that goes to, not to make this an interview just about Vic Fangio's quotes, but, I mean, you talk about a guy who says he doesn't set, what was the word? He doesn't set expectations or limitations.
Yeah, that's right. Limitations on people.
Yeah, because then that's as high as they'll go. If you keep raising the bar and raising the ceiling for them, they'll show you how far they can go. And the 2 rookie corners, well, nickel and corner, and then Nolan Smith just kept showing you how far they could go. And a lot of times coaches will just put that bar there and leave it there. But the fact that these guys kept raising it and Vic Fangio kept raising it with them as well to allow them to grow, it amounts to the best defense we've seen in Philadelphia in a long time. So that, for me, is a lot of what goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Howie Roseman saying, hey, here's Uche, here's Ojulari, here's a veteran that might have already gotten to a ceiling in Adoree Jackson, but, do what you can with them, and we'll see what we got. Moro Ojomo, let's see what you got in him, see if you can get him to a different ceiling. And Vic Fangio might become the edge rusher whisperer, the corner whisperer, whatever he might be, in order to make this defense maintain what they were able to accomplish last year.
He might supplant, believe it or not, a guy like Jim Johnson, who people revere.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
City. I mean, what he's done so far, he's more accomplished, obviously.
Right.
I got 2 last ones here for you. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you. I would think almost, since you can remember rooting for the Eagles as a young kid.
Yeah, right.
Brandon Graham, probably almost half your life, you've been kind of watching this guy play football and at a high level. Well, maybe not the first 5, but surely the last 10, where he's picked up. And you can make the argument that his resume, along with Lane's, along with Jason's, is probably one of the most recognized resumes of any Eagle as a team-wise, even back to the Gang Green guys. Just your takeaway on where you see him. Is he a Mount Rushmore guy in your eyes? Is he a guy that you would look at? Or do you see him differently? Because, again, obviously you being a Philadelphia guy, me being an NFL guy, I see him different. How do you see him?
I see him as one. The way I described it is because, like, he's obviously a Hall of Famer for the Eagles. No question about that. But he's not a Mount Rushmore guy in my mind, because if you want to talk about impactful players, which includes leadership in the locker room, culture builder. I mean, this is drafted by Andy Reid. Then he's standing up all of a sudden playing for Billy Davis and Chip Kelly. Then Doug Peterson wins the Super Bowl. Obviously, Nick Sirianni wins another Super Bowl. But, like, this guy has been through it all. Like, I did a whole retrospective on just the year 2010, what was going on in the city of Philadelphia. I mean, you're talking about Evan Turner being drafted 2nd overall in the NBA that year. Like, let's think about it. You know what I mean? it's insane to go back there. But the Flyers are in the Stanley Cup Finals. But in terms of impactful, influential players, like in a different degree, people talk about like the most influential players in the NBA. And to me, you can't have that conversation without Allen Iverson with his influence. Sure, there are better players, Kobe Bryant, better player in his era, all that stuff. But in terms of impactful, influential players, I put more Brandon Graham in that category. He's third on the all-time sack list, but he was also here 15 years. He credited Jim Schwartz for kind of reinvigorating his career. I don't put him in the Mount Rushmore. I don't put him in like NFL Films top 10 Eagles all time. I don't do that. But as far as influential and impactful, I think about every free agent that comes here or every guy that's traded here. In every single press conference, you hear the word culture. Well, it had a lot to do with Jason Kelce, certainly. Had a lot to do with Fletcher Cox, certainly. But Brandon Graham has also been through it and always been that positive guy in the locker room no matter what. And I think that has helped mold the culture that so many of these free agents have longed for throughout their careers before coming to Philadelphia. And I think Brandon Graham is a big reason why that culture is so great in that Eagles locker room. And even further beyond this point, he's instilled that in Nolan Smith. I think Jalen Hurts will call on that as well on the offensive side of the football. I think that is more so his legacy here. And I think that's saying something considering, again, he is third on the all-time sack list here in Philly.
You know, I threw four guys at you. I'm going to throw four guys at you here for me. I'm not going to throw Jerome in there because he didn't play long enough. But for me, the Mount Rushmore for big sales on the Eagles, I've got Reggie. I've got Chuck Bednarik.
Definitely.
I've got Dawkins. And I got Lane Johnson.
Wow. Okay. Offensive lineman is ballsy. It's I'll put it like if he wins three Super Bowls, as the Eagles right tackle, that's kind of hard to pass up. The other thing though is I don't think Jalen. I mean, the thing is Jalen Hurts, 26 years old, 27 years old. Look, Bednarik is unquestionably on there. Reggie White is unquestionably on there. I know he won a Super Bowl over with the Packers, but you're talking about at worst, he's 1A to Lawrence Taylor as number one.
Oh, absolutely.
On the defensive all-time players list. Right there.
That's the conversation you do this, Farzy. Oh, right. You want LT? All right, I'll take Reggie. Oh, you want
right, done.
I'll take LT. I'm good with that. That's how close those two guys are. Then I think it's everybody else.
I agree. There's a huge valley in between those two peaks. You know what I'm saying? Lane would definitely, at this point, the two super. I think Lane's a good one. I think Jalen will be on that though by the time he's done. I think Jalen's going to be on that. If
Jalen wins another Super Bowl,
you
think it's him instead of Lane in there? Jalen Hurts, Dawkins, Chuck, and Reggie, and the Super Bowl era at least.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other thing too. Like I always say, Super Bowl era. I don't like the term.
I don't
all
know
time. Because look, not to split hairs here, and I know like Sinatra was at the top of the charts when this was happening, but like they won back-to-back championships in 48 and 49. They went to 3 straight championships. Chuck Bednarik was a rookie when they won in 49. He was I think his last year in 1960, if I'm not mistaken, when they won again.
Yeah.
And he also played both sides. So like how am I arguing against that guy? But yeah,
who was the UPenn? I mean, what the hell is that?
Yeah, he went to UPenn.
Going to UPenn? What the hell is that, right?
I didn't even have math at UPenn yet at that point. No. Calculus? I don't know. Concrete Charlie in calculus class.
Is that a Temple guy throwing shade at somebody? Is that what that was?
Yeah,
I just for the first time saw a little shade from a Temple guy over at a UPenn guy.
We're the Harvard of North Broad. We look down on anybody down University City, West Philly. Going to the old, what's the name of that bar? The Track at 44th in Baltimore. Anyway, I had karaoke Monday nights when I lived over that way. Good times. But no, all the respect in the world to anybody who went to UPenn because it might be my one day. They might be my doctor one day.
All right. Finally here. Now, I'm going to be Big Sills.
Okay.
Which is a conspiracy theory guy. Now, you tell me. So Brandon Graham has a 42-minute speech. Brave, love everybody. Oh my God, the cookie guy, the guy with the Slurpee, the guy who parks cars. Not one freaking mention of Sirianni the whole 42 minutes. Not one mention. He mentioned and thanked Andy. He mentioned and thanked everybody. Jim Schwartz, Howie, the owner. Not one time in that 42 minutes did he mention Nick Sirianni. And he was sitting right in front of him. Now, Farzy, am I being Big Sills here trying to make shit into something here? Or, I mean, I don't know. What do you make of that?
Obviously, there's a huge riff, and they're probably going to have a steel cage death match with one another. I don't know. That is weird because I thought there was also like Jason Kelsey referenced his high school band leader, his music teacher. Brandon Graham referenced, I think her name was Kathy.
Yeah.
Who I think is like, I don't know who Kathy is. I still got to look that up.
I think she works in the travel.
I would assume travel or dining hall. I don't know.
Travel or something. He mentioned even the trainers. And I'm like, well, the guy's sitting right in front of you, and you're not even going to mention the guy, the Paisan sitting there right there, Nick Sirianni, nothing. And he just like blazed right over him. Hey, I'd like to thank all the people we won with, my teammates, everyone. No Nick.
That's interesting. I think you're on. I think clearly they hate each other and they tolerated one another. No, that is. I think if somebody pointed that out to Brandon Graham afterwards, I think he feels terrible about that. I will say that.
Oh, good.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I didn't.
Hey, Foxy, oh, good.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. Right. No, but I did see the video that came out where at the Super Bowl, and this wasn't on any of the mic'd up pieces. So I guess they saved this for after Brandon decided to hang it up officially, and they hug. BG and Sirianni hug at the end of the Super Bowl, and Sirianni says, "I'm going to miss you next year. I'm really going to miss you." So I guess they had already known. And then the other thing is, this was on the Eagles mic'd up Super Bowl. It wasn't on NFL Films mic'd up. And it was when Sirianni was counting the sacks, which happened in both videos. I don't think they had him in the shot originally, but the Eagles mic'd up had him counting sacks with Brandon Graham. So he'd be like, "That's one." And then he'd go over and like slap Brandon Graham on the helmet and be like, "That's two." So that's who he was. That's who that rapport was with on the sidelines there. But yeah, I think that Brandon Graham would feel terrible about that if somebody pointed. I mean, he probably realizes it by now, and maybe he has thanked him enough. But let's stir the pot, though. Big Stills. They hate each other.
Yeah,
they're going to have a steel cage death match for charity.
Yeah,
whoever comes out the least bloody
he's going
wins.
back to help Michigan and never helping the Eagles ever again. That's it, right?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, shout out. You mentioned him, but shout out Avante Maddox. I got to know Avante when he was here in Philly. He's back home in Michigan. I feel terrible for him in this regard and only this regard. When the Eagles had played out there, he'd get hit up. He'd get hit up for tickets like nobody else. Now he's going to get hit up for tickets even more playing for the Lions. So good luck to Avante Maddox while he's out there.
I played in Detroit. Let me tell you the problem you got with Detroit. You ready? So you get your paycheck, you look at it, and you're like, what's that other 11? What's this? City Entertainment? And you get taxed state, federal, and you get a entertainment tax if you come in from out of town. And say you live in Florida or you live in Texas, they tax you for that game for you playing in that city. They call it an entertainment tax. Bro, nobody likes playing in Detroit because of the taxes, because of the unions that got there. I was like this. I feel like I'm playing for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and I'm playing in Canada, and I'm being paid Canadian money up here. I got a dollar doesn't go anywhere in Detroit.
That's great. I got a soft spot in my heart for Detroit. I got engaged in Detroit.
Right?
Randomly. I got engaged in Detroit.
Is she Italian?
My wife, her toenail is Sicilian. That's about it. Yeah, she's not. She's what I call non-practicing. I mean, she's more practicing. She's more practicing now that she married me. But
this is how my family met my wife. We've been together 35 years, by the way, me and my wife. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true because I don't really like people that much, so I got to stick with one chick. So
okay.
Farzi, so I this is what everybody in my family's Italian. So obviously, my Aunt Nellie and my Aunt Jenny, that son of a b, that German, that guy, honey, you're not German, are you? No, I'm not German. She goes, that son of a b, and she just, honey, you're not German, are you?
That is amazing.
Yeah, no,
That's amazing.
That's how my wife. My wife goes around telling everybody now she's Italian because her kid's Italian too, so it's all right.
Yeah, it tends to be a dominant gene, that Italian gene. I can vouch for that. That's for sure.
Absolutely, man. Take a look at Saturday, man. Calipari, that's where we're going here. Farzi, have a great weekend. Thank you so much, brother.
Much appreciated. Good to see you again, my friend. And you have a good weekend as well. Enjoy Saturday.
You got it. Make sure you tell everybody hi. That's our Farzetta. Love Marc Farzetta, man. We appreciate him coming aboard. Make sure you check him out, too. He starts our broadcasting out here on JAKIB Sports Monday through Friday. We appreciate him doing that with us. Please hit the like button. Don't forget my great friends at Morgan & Morgan. Folks, tell you this all the time, man. #1 injury law firm in America is Morgan & Morgan. With thousands of attorneys across the country, they get and make sure every family gets a return when it comes to doing the right thing on these insurance companies and for the recovery that they get for families. There is nobody better in America. I was talking to John Morgan a couple of weeks ago, and I think even last night we were talking about how cool it was that he's part of the program, and he so loves it. He's coming on next week, by the way. You guys enjoyed him when he was talking about the college football quarterback, and so he's going to be on with us. It's a very family-oriented organization, Morgan & Morgan. If you're ever injured, please do me a favor. Check out our friends at Morgan & Morgan. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's FOR, forthepeople.com/big sales or pound 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sales sent you.
This is Eric.